deploying MongoDB and mongoexpress, which is an admin UI for MongoDB, in a few simple steps. Stick with me to find out more about this. Hello and what's up guys, Medium Guy here. Welcome to the next video on my channel. I hope you're enjoying the videos on my channel, and I really do appreciate the likes and great comments that I get. So in this video we're going to see how to deploy a standalone MongoDB database instance plus mongoexpress, which is an admin UI for the MongoDB database, which allows us to see our databases, the collections inside databases, indexes, and all the data that are in collections, and do almost everything on the data, like for example removing them, editing them, and inserting new data, and every other thing. So all this will be in Docker environment with a single Docker compose file. So without any delay, let's get down to work. So in order to create our container, I'm going to use the Docker's official image for Mongo. So I'll put the link down below so you'll access this page very easily. So in the tags section, we have every tag that is created for the Mongo official image. So I'm going to use the 6th version, which is the latest stable release for the MongoDB database as of the creation time of this video. Also for the mongoexpress, I'm going to use the official mongoexpress image provided by Docker itself, but for this image I'm going to use the latest tag. You can go ahead and choose between the versions that you want for your use cases. So I'll switch to the terminal. In here, if I hit ls, you can see that I have a Docker compose file over here, and I am in the Mongo standalone directory in my GitHub repository, where I put all the codes and configurations, and of course I'll put the link to the GitHub repository so you'll be able to access all the files and configurations and everything very easily. So the next thing, I'll hit nano docker compose file. Over here, as you can see, there are two services inside this Docker compose file. First one being the Mongo itself, as we can see is exactly the same Mongo with the tag of 6. The restart policy is set to always, and I've just given a container name. You can provide whatever you want, keeping in mind that if you don't provide the container name, the Docker compose will go ahead and generate based on the directory name which this Docker compose exists, combined with the service name. So in the environment variable section, I've got two environment variables, one being the root username and the second the root password. These are some very basic username and passwords. Of course, it is recommended to change these values in your production environments. And also in the volumes section, I've got two volumes mapped to inside the container, one being the ./db data to the /data/db inside the container, where the service inside the container will try to store its data. So as a result, the data will be persisted, and whenever this container will be removed and the next instances will be created, the data won't get lost and will be actually persisted. And the next is the etc time zone, in order to set the time zone of the host machine to also inside the runtime of container. So the next service is the mongoexpress. The image is exactly the same. I haven't passed in the tag name, so the latest will be used. The restart policy is also set to always, and again some random name for the container. And this time, as you can see, I've got a port mapped to the inside the container, which is exactly the port for the mongoexpress default, which is 8081. So as you have already noticed, I haven't mapped any port to the MongoDB itself, so it will be only accessible through the Docker's network that will be created for this Docker compose file. And actually no application or no other users will be able to access this MongoDB instance from the outside network. And also the environment variables that are passed to this is the exact same username and password, and a connection string including the service name of the MongoDB itself. So I'll hit Ctrl X to get out of the dockercompose file, and the only thing that I need to do is say dockercompose up-d. I'll hit enter, and this will try to first create a network and then the other two containers, attaching the network to the both of the containers. So because they are using the same network, they will be actually seeing each other through their service names, and because of that, in the connection string for the mongoexpress, we actually passed the service name of the MongoDB database. So if I say dockercompose ps, I can see that both my containers are up and running. No ports mapped to the Mongo itself, but port 8081 mapped to the 8081 inside the container for the Mongo UI. So by hitting dockercompose logs --tail, I'll pass in 100 to get the last 100 lines of the logs that the containers in this dockercompose file generated, and I'll pass -f to follow the logs. As you can see, I get all the logs that the two containers generated. So with that, I've got my two containers up and running, and actually switching to the browser and going to the exact same IP of the server that I created the containers, and on port 8081 I'll be able to access the mongoexpress web UI. So as you can see, I've got the very basic setup of a MongoDB instance. So like for example, if I pass in some name over here, create database, this will try to create a database called test. If I click on this, I'll go inside the test database that I just created, and in the collections section you can see that there's only one collection that is auto-generated with a name of delete me. So actually, after we create some other collections, we can simply remove this dummy collection. So I'll say collection 1, hit create collection. So my collection is created. I'll go back and try to create another collection, and now I'll simply hit the delete button over here, type in the collection name and hit the delete button, and the collection is removed. So you can see that I can create and remove collections through the mongoexpress. I've got options like importing and exporting, so I can import the data that I've exported from the other instances through the mongoexpress UI, or I just can export data out of this collection. So if I just go ahead and go inside the collection 1, so I'm now inside the collection 1. In here I can create documents, like I'll say key equals to val and key 2 equals to number 2. So I can pass any data types for any columns that I want, because this is nosql and no restrictions. So I'll hit save, and as you can see in the list over here, my data has been created. I can do other things like creating indexes, removing or querying through the data of this collection. Also, I've got an advanced panel over here where I can write my advanced queries and projections, so I'll be able to filter out the data of this collection. So with that, that's all for this video. I hope you learned something new in this one. If you have any questions, any recommendations, just go ahead and ask me in the comment section down below. As I mentioned, I'll put all the codes and configurations in my GitHub repository, where you can find the link down below. Also, don't forget to watch the other videos on my channel, where I've got cool videos about cool technologies. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe, which will help grow the channel. And with that, I hope to see you in the next videos.